Hey, good morning. Today we're getting our hair cut with that guy right there. Hello! Look at, my hair's cut. Isn't it nice? I love it. I'm so very happy with it. So we are gonna go back to the studio now. The thing here is that Eric was the very first person to, he was like the only real person to kind of give me a chance when it came to moving to Seattle, and I thought that it was kind of relevant today. Also, today's my birthday, so there's like a whole slew of stuff going on in this vlog this week. It is Wednesday, it is July 15th, and let's go to the studio and figure out, or react to rather, my timeline, my transition timeline. So we made it. We are here. We are here at the studio. Let's run through this timeline of mine, because I don't know if you know, but when I first arrived here, I actually documented almost everything that was going on in my life for about the first year. There's some pretty revealing images in here. I think some of you are going to be surprised. All right, so we are here. We have our timeline up, and would you take a look at that? So, This is me in 2013. I was in my last year of college, president of the photo club, and well, as I don't know if you could tell, but I really don't like, getting my photo taken at that time. I had severe acne around that time as well, and obviously I was just starting to grow my hair out. And it's wild to look back at this, because it's like I don't even see myself in that image anymore. This is like looking at somebody else entirely. And then on the image on the left, this was a year after I moved out to Seattle. So a little under a year. Oh, there it is. So cue the collective awes. Look it. So I was 7 here, and as I say, this is kind of where I started questioning things, right? This is where, like, I had a neighborhood friend, and I would go over to her place all the time, and we would gender bend, we would have a good time, we would do our thing, and it was just life, right? There was no thought, there was nothing like, there's no ridicule, there's no fear about being myself at that age, because, really just like, any other kid looks like any other kid at that age, just their hair's a little bit longer. So that's me with my big ears, smiling all pretty. I think that was my birthday, and that was the first house that I grew up in right there. So then my little brother, he graduated from high school, or I graduated from high school, I guess, and that's me. That's me on May 11th. And as I say here, right, I started to cross-dress. So cross-dressing is something that I think a lot of trans people go through. And at least everybody I've met so far was like, yeah, I cross-dress. It's just kind of like a stepping stone in the right direction, right? And, I was so ashamed of it at that time. I was so concerned about what people would think about me. And I hid it from everybody. And, it took me a long time to start to understand the difference between envy and attraction, because at this time I wasn't attracted to really anybody. I was so confused about my gender, I was confused about my sexuality, but I thought that the envy that I felt for the other women was attraction, and that's part of where that confusion came from. So this is me in high school. Look at how cute I was. Aww. Then I got to college, and this is Matt. You may have seen him from a prior vlog. That's my other roommate who wanted to remain anonymous, which is totally cool, whatever. And I miss these guys so much. Matt lives in Chicago. Robert is out in the Marines at this time. He's in the Marine band, because I went to music school, so all my roommates and everybody in our hallway was a musician. And so yeah, this was when I was still considering myself a cross-dresser, and life was challenging at this time, because this is when I started to fall into my deep, dark depression. You can kind of see it in my eyes. I don't know if you can, but I sure can. I was hurting. This is, I believe, my second year of college, and this was when I started to become more of a recluse. Let's put it like that. So this is the first photo that I had ever posted on the internet. I mean, look at my toenails. I didn't know how to cut my toenails then. They're disgusting. But remember, I bought these shoes from eBay because I thought they were super cute and little flowers on the top. I still think they're cute. They're weird cut on the top I don't care for anymore, but the flowers I do. I like the flowers. And I was so nervous about this one because I was still so ashamed of myself, but I was like feeling this pressure, right? This external pressure just to be myself. But I was so ashamed and so fearful of the ridicule that I might experience that like I was, as you can maybe see it in the caption there, I was afraid people would like recognize this carpet. Just think about that. That is how ashamed I was to be myself. That is the fear and the fear of ridicule that I was facing. And yeah, this is the first photo to ever hit the internet. And then year 3 hit. Year 3 of college. That's me. That's when my acne was almost at its worst. I was starting to get really bad cystic acne as well. And I was the president of the photo club. And so here I was at an event. I was recruiting people. I was telling people, they should join. They should do our thing and blah, blah, blah. And this is me. I still love that shirt. I miss it. I miss it a lot. But I love that shirt. That was one of my favorite shirts. Damn, I miss that shirt. And yeah, as I say here, this is when I started getting a ponytail. This is when I started to understand who I was and, where I needed to be in my life. This is, again, when I was in my 3rd year, and I think right around this time is when I came out to Matt. And Matt, if you're watching this, I don't feel bad about this at all, but he laughed at me. Matt laughed at me. Matt was the very first person I ever came out to. And he thought I was joking. He outright just cackled. Cackled would be a better way to put it. And he later told me that he thought I was kidding. And, because he's bi, and so, he thought maybe I was making a joke about, LGBT things or whatever, but he had no idea that I was being serious, and I confided in him. He was the very first person, and I'm still so grateful for him because he gave me confidence and was able to I was able to start just accepting myself and understanding that, hey, people won't have all these, hold all this prejudice against me, and yeah, and that's when I started coming out to people. So in October of 2013, I moved to Seattle in October of 2014. So the next images you're about to see were only a year. Watch what changes here. Watch what changes. This is my depression. This is when I was really falling deep into depression. Wintertime in Michigan, I don't know if you know it, it's snowy, it's rough. It's a very rough time. And this was when I had really started to hide away. I started drinking a lot. I started just falling, away, work and my other projects started to, distance themselves from my life. I essentially became a shell of myself. And this was one of those photo shoots there. And again, another photo shoot from around the same time. I mean, we would do a lot of just fun little shoots like this, and I look back on this and it's clear that I was obviously working through something. I was not smiling in any of these photos. And this is a interesting image for me because the photographer here, another photographer from the photo club, I needed photos for my music. I needed to get some promo stuff. And she softened my skin quite a bit. And one, it was the first time I ever saw my skin like that soft, which was great. But the second thing was, This photo is rather feminine. And it was the first time that I had ever seen myself as a feminine person, I guess. The first time that I was like, oh, look at that. That's like, it's kind of an androgynous look for me. Well, I did not want anybody to see this image because I was afraid people would see through me because I saw this image as more feminine. It was interesting. It was an interesting time. Hey, can you believe that you've watched 10 minutes of this video already? If you're enjoying this channel, you should definitely click that subscribe button, click the like button, and we also have a bunch of LGBT themed merch. So if you want to check out some t-shirts, if you're looking for anything new, click the link down below. All right, let's get back into it. Thanks for watching. So this image, right after this, 3/14, right? 3/14 is when I had that last photo shoot. I posted the very first photo to the internet of my face, and that was me, pre-transition or pre-hormones. And this is where I started to figure myself out. This is where I was understanding who I was and what I needed to be doing. I dropped out of college and I moved at home. And this is like also where, like, I didn't want to come out to anybody. Didn't want to come out to my parents. I didn't want to do anything like that. And so this is where I was at this time in July. I was also in therapy as well. So I was taking therapy. I love those earrings. They were so delicate and they got destroyed in my move. Oh, it was so sad. But yeah, I was in therapy a lot at this time, working through my feelings. In Michigan, I was living in Michigan still. There were you have to have a therapist's approval to go through with hormones and things. So I was just kind of going through the paces before I moved to Seattle, which is just informed consent. And this is just trying to figure life out. I was at this time going to garage sales, and my cover was I was selling these clothes on the internet, on eBay, reselling clothes. And I was literally just like, I was so happy that I had like a wardrobe to wear and everything. And again, as I say, still like this was a really hard time. I was in my room all summer. I had a small little part-time job that was micromanaged. It was difficult. And so this was still, July of 2014. Still trying to figure out who I was and just figuring these things out. And this is when I started to miss college. I got laid off from that job because I'm not very good at being micromanaged. And, well, I mean, it was probably the best thing for both of us. So anyway, I got fired from that job. And this was, the end of July, August area. And I was kind of trying to like be a part of this like life that I had left behind in college. I dropped out, my grade point plummeted, and so I was just trying to, be as much of like myself, but also like not myself, right? Like a totally different gender. And so my band that I was in, Kavazababa, coffee party is what it translates to. We were playing festivals, we were going around all like mid-Michigan, and we went up to Traverse City and everything like that too. And I began to feel like I was living a double life, because I would go home, I'd be in the closet, right? I would be literally in the closet. Like I had a walk-in closet and I'd be wearing all these women's clothing. And then anytime I'd leave, my bedroom, I would have to wear my male clothes again. And this is my band, we were killing it. Oh, I miss these guys. We had such a good time. This was so much fun. And yeah, I was really, really looking to escape my body, not my life, but my body at that time. It was hard. It was really difficult. And so that's 8/14, 2 months before I moved out here to Seattle. And that here is where things started to get real. This is where I started to become more of myself. I got so fed up with just like hiding myself and waiting for, the right moment to transition, that I just started to do it on my own and start to, understand myself. And so I would, well, as I put it here, Matt moved to Chicago over that summer. He transferred schools, and so I took that opportunity to actually go out and be myself for the very first time. And this is when I was in this bathroom. I was in a bathroom and in Matt's apartment in Chicago, and it was sweltering, but I was still ashamed, and so I kept the door shut. I didn't want anyone to see me doing my makeup, and so I was like, we're gonna shut the door. It was hot in that bathroom. I just remember sweat dripping down my face as I was doing my makeup and getting ready to go out and, do what I needed to do. And and if you do want to see more about my Chicago experience, I did document that in a very similar style here. I'll post this link down below in the description and right below the like button there. So if you are enjoying this video, please click the like button. It helps me out a bunch. And if you're enjoying my banter, click the subscribe button too. That helps me out even more. Thanks. All right, so let's keep going here. So this is after I had gotten ready and stuff. This is, it's nothing like overtly feminine, just nice jeans, a little cup t-shirt here, scarf, basic makeup. I mean, I was being myself as I am today. Like today I'm just wearing a tank top and shorts. Nothing's really changed other than my self-confidence. And we went out on the town. This was Matt's apartment. It was so nice. Oh my God. He lived in Boys Town, which is the gay district of Chicago. And I can't tell you how comforting it was to be walking around that neighborhood instead of like downtown, right? Oh, so much nicer. So, we went out, had a drink, went to a comedy show, just enjoyed life as all it had to offer. Just enjoying everything of this friendship that I still have with Matt. And I miss you, man. I miss you. And there I am, all dapper, looking like a movie star. So this was after Chicago, and you can just remember my eyes. Look at my eyes here, and look at my eyes above. That's incredible. Like, you can physically see a lift happening in my body. And that was the moment that I couldn't turn back. Everything about that moment right there meant that I knew what I needed to do with myself. So when I was out and about in Chicago, though, something terrible happened during my first time. I want you to look at this image while I explain this. And I want you to understand that this moment still didn't deter me from being myself. Because as I was out on the streets, Matt and I were stopped at a crosswalk, and we were just getting across. And I didn't have any feminine voice. I was using a low voice then. And I just remember two young, maybe 19-year-old girls turned around and just flat out laughed at me. Matt told me later that he just wanted to punch them in the teeth. We let it slide and went our way. But it was really difficult to continue that evening with that, in the back of my mind, because this was when we were first getting out on the streets. And I will tell you, my heart was thumping in my chest. Everything about those first couple hours of just getting out of the apartment and walking to the comedy club was probably scarier than moving across the country without knowing anybody where I was headed. So that's the moment that I was truly myself. And then something amazing happened. I started coming out to my friends and family back in Michigan. I had left Chicago. I stayed with him for a while, went back home. And this was at a therapy appointment. There was a coffee shop right next door to my therapy appointment. My therapy appointment was an hour and a half away from my little rural town. And every time I would get in that car to drive to that therapy appointment, which was once a week, I would practice my voice. I would just try my very best to kind of get in the mindset of myself and, think about what I was going to talk about and understand who I was. And through that practice and the Chicago experience, I started dressing for my therapy appointments. I would get dressed at home. I would leave the front door. At this point, my stepmom, who I will mention here shortly, my stepmom and my dad knew and were trying to be as supportive as possible. My dad more so than my stepmom. And I would just go to therapy and be myself. And this was me at a coffee shop before my therapy appointment. But things started to change. So I, at this point, was right on the end of living that double life sort of idea. I was going back and forth between going, hanging out with some of my college friends. Like we went to see the Milk Carton Kids here. One of my favorite all-time folk bands, by the way, if you ever get a chance, listen to them. And we would, I would kind of just it was about 60-40 at this time, 60% male, 40% female, in that time of life right there. And then something terrible happened. This was the very last thing I did in Michigan. 9/14. On October 10th, 2014, my stepmom kicked me out. There was this huge fight. I don't quite remember how it happened, but I essentially came home one day. My stepmom said I am no longer allowed to be dressing in front of her or, essentially just limiting who I am and myself. I'm unable to do anything anymore. So I remember going down into the basement, going into my room and just starting to pack my bags. There was just no turning back. Obviously, my parents were not accepting me. And I remember my dad came down with tears in his eyes. It was only the second time I've ever seen him cry. And he said to me that I wish that we could have done this a different way. And I never talked to him about that moment. My dad passed away shortly after I had been kicked out. But he said, I imagine that Rosemary was putting pressure on him to kick me out. And my dad was disabled. So growing up, he didn't have any income. So he was very much reliant on Rosemary. And yeah, it was difficult because he was between a rock and a hard place. I can only assume that Rosemary kind of gave him an ultimatum, and he had to do what was best for him because he's a 70-year-old man without income and unable to work. So that is when I came out on Facebook. Came out of Facebook, and I'm going to leave this here. You can read my coming out letter, and I mentioned that I stole a lot of it from a Reddit user because, I don't remember who this person was. I'm so sorry if you wrote this. Please comment down below, and I will happily credit you on this one and others as well. But yeah, I just needed to be myself, and I wasn't going to let anything stop me. So I did what my stepmom forced me to do, and I left. I left the state. I left, and I went 3,000 miles away, and I arrived in Seattle. I arrived in Seattle on the 13th. Well, a few months went by. A little bit. I was sleeping in my car a little bit, and I had thankfully Eric, who I saw this morning, had met Eric and through couchsurfing.com. So if you're in a similar boat, couchsurfing.com, tons and tons and tons of people out there looking to help others like yourself. Definitely go out and check it out. But I met Eric through couchsurfing. And Eric gave me a place to live for, at the time he told me a week. It extended into 2 weeks. I felt so bad. I was overstaying my welcome. But, it was him that gave me he gave me a chance. He gave me a chance to actually be myself and get a foothold in this city. And this was This was this couldn't have been 10, 20, because this was after I moved. I arrived on the 13th. That was a week. So this must have been near like the end of October, early November. There's probably a vlog around this time because I was just vlogging around this time, and I would sit on the floor because I didn't have any furniture and vlog against the wall. So I imagine this was probably more near the end of October, early November. Man, this was a hard time in my life. Well, I started learning Photoshop because I needed to make money. And so I started using my camera, the same one that I'm using right now, to go out. And I, had to just make anything I could. So I was shooting photography. I found a job at H&M, making just minimum wage and just getting things going, essentially. It was Halloween, and I was just doing my best to stay positive. And after that, I remember, because it was seasonal work, I think I found a job with Goodwill e-commerce a little after that. And that's when life started. Like, H&M was just a retail job, no, it was dead end. There was nothing I could progress with it. But I started working for Goodwill as a photographer, an e-commerce photographer. And that is when I started opening doors in my life to start, moving ahead with my career. Well, my self-confidence started improving. I also started hormones right around this time. And I started going on dates. It was so much fun. I still love that time because I was just kind of trying to figure myself out. I was just trying to be myself and experience all that I had to offer. You know what I mean? I don't know. I was just enjoying life as an early 20s single woman. That's what I was doing. It was great. Wonderful time in my life. And then, so I didn't have many friends. I was, at this time, I had my roommate, and then I have the support group that I was in as well. And I was going to support group, and this was Thanksgiving. One of the members from the support group had offered, a Friendsgiving, I think is what they called it. And so there was 20 of us at the thing, all in the same boat, all kicked out, and I brought my guitar over and just had Thanksgiving and just enjoyed life. I was so happy during this time. I was hungry. I was starving. I didn't have any anywhere to go, but I was I was so happy because I was myself. I could actually live and do what I needed to do for both my mental health and my career. Oh, such a good time in my life. Well, something happened. I had to go back to Michigan. This is my friend Tony. Tony was another roommate that I had in college, and I went back to see him. Went to his apartment. Well, I didn't go back to see him. I actually went back because my dad passed away. I didn't want to, this was 3 months later, so I didn't want to deter, any of my extended family who, many of them also didn't support me, So I had to go to a funeral, and I dressed as male. It's the very last time that I had ever dressed up as male. I put on my little zoot suit, and went to the funeral and paid my respects. And then after that, I went and just visited some friends as myself. And as you can see, I was happy. I was happy with myself. And I have to say that time, right, December, was so difficult. So difficult for me. Because, no, not difficult, confusing. Because at that time, my dad passed away, and I thought I should be sad, right? But my entire world was moving in the direction that just affirmed everything that I had suppressed for years. And finally, I was able to just live. And so I was deeply saddened, but at the same time, I was ecstatic to be alive. And to this day, I'm still sort of confused at that time in my life because it was it was a time when the contrast between my father's death and me living my life was, I don't have words. I don't have words for it. I can't even describe how strange it was to feel at that time. If you're liking this, you should click the subscribe button. See how happy I am? See? See how happy I am? That's what I look like when you click the subscribe button. Click the like button too. Drop a comment. Tell me about your own transition story. I'm curious. I like reading them. They're one of some of my favorites because I like when people are like, "Oh, myself." It's so great. It's so good. So, this is Christmas. Everything I'm wearing here is from H&M. God, I love that discount. So I was here at H&M and all right, not H&M. This was a community center here in town. Again, another like trans Christmas kind of thing. And I just, dressed to the nines. I was so happy at this time. And this photo represents the contrast between my father's funeral and like the happiness that I was experiencing here. Such a strange time. And then again, New Year's, again, same idea here. I went out with a friend. I went out with a friend who's still very, very close to me this day. We transitioned together, and he actually decided to detransition. I mean, it was like so quick, like when he actually made that choice. He was only like transitioning for like 3 or 4 months or something like that. And once he started seeing the hormone and hormonal changes, he decided that it wasn't right for him. And so he decided that he's going to just stick with his more just like his kind of fluid gender expression and present as male. So, like there is no binary even in the trans world. I'm looking at you, non-binary people. Hey, what's up? Like I've always said, like I kind of identify as gender fluid. There are days when I feel more masculine. There are days when I feel more feminine. And if you want to see my Reddit history, you can dig way back and see those posts. But yeah, like it's incredible to see how people, kind of experience themselves and their gender, and it was interesting, and kind of commenting here on my dad's stuff again. So this is where life starts kind of getting like settled in. Like, this is chocolate. My roommate went on a dumpster diving date. And they brought home trash bags of Fran's chocolate. And so we had a chocolate party. We didn't eat any of it, but we took a few photos with it because it was just a ridiculous amount of chocolate. It was so much fun. Yeah, it's like living my life the way I wanted to. And I was like, I had a sublease at this time, so I started looking for a more permanent place. And then I started making more friends. I started understanding who I was. It was such a great time in my life. Like everything about it. I mean, just look at the chocolate. There is so much chocolate there. So I found a place to live over in just a neighborhood called the Central District. That's actually where my studio is now. And I'm not living in my studio, same neighborhood. And I met with Cindy, and Cindy was a great person to start that with. It was just a little room, cheap rent. She had a daughter of her own who was dealing with some difficult times, and so we both kind of like bonded over that, and it was comfortable. It was a nice time in my life where I felt like things were, getting and moving into the right place. As I said here, I'm not homeless. It was really great. This is funny. I said, ew, they're awful people to live with. Well, I will tell you right now, Cindy was great. The other roommates were not so much. They were. I'm just gonna let you use your imagination. So they were a little difficult. Cindy was good though. We had good talks. So this is where my music started to flourish. this is interesting, and I get people from time to time asking me this question because, I messed that one up. You know, like, this is where things started to kind of flourish with my music, because, like, I was ashamed of my voice as well. Like, I didn't want to see myself as, like, a trans performer with a low, you know, masculine voice, or a female performer with a low masculine voice. And so, like, I actually put my guitar down until my dad died for about, like, 6 to 8 months. And that's, like, crazy for me. I play my guitar, like, every day. And so, like, for me, I just felt like music, I didn't want to deal with it at all. And I was willing to give music up, something that is, I am so passionate about. I was willing to give it up because I didn't want to, again, be ridiculed. You know, like, I mean, think, you know, Rotten Tomatoes on stage, right? Like, I was going so far, and I've talked about this from time to time. I should do a whole video on this topic. But, like, you know, like, I wanted to brand myself as, like, a tranny musician, degrade myself, because I thought it would give me a leg up and set me apart from the competition. It's just like, I mean, I can't believe that I was thinking like that. But, I mean, even then I still had some, you know, like, inner transphobia that I was still working through and still trying to get out. And eventually I got the courage through that friend that detransitioned that I was talking about earlier. He wanted to do an open mic, and he invited me to do it. And I said, fine, I'll do it. And so I got up for the very first time on stage with people as female. And oh my God, it was amazing, because now I was on stage as myself. I wasn't on stage acting as myself. Oof, that was a moment. So I spent a lot of time at the library here. I was, you know, just trying to, well, I mean, I was always kind of in between jobs. I've always been an entrepreneur kind of person, so I was still working for Goodwill and things like that. But I was, like, looking and researching on, like, business books, and, you know, just trying to get, like, out of the situation that I was in, and start working for myself as a photographer. And the library was free. I didn't have to pay for coffee to sit there for a few hours. So I would go here and research and work and, you know, edit photos. I was working for, like, one of the clients, shooting photography for them and that kind of stuff. Hey, there he is. He went by Lydia at the time. I'm not going to say his real name because I don't want to give, you know, who he is. But this is my friend. He had appeared in earlier vlogs, so if you want to dig through those and see those. This is him. He's a really good dude. I want to protect his privacy though, so he's a great dude. I miss him. I should call him. So this is well, I said she was my best friend at the time, but she actually turned into my girlfriend, and this was our first date. This is my first real relationship as a woman as well, which was its own interesting time. That had given me perspective about how women are treated and, you know, seen in the world and things. And that time was, you know, when I started becoming the feminist that I am. There she is. That was Kelly. There's my ex. She's kind. She lives way up north now. And here I am on stage playing my music, doing what I'm doing, being happy, just living my life. And this is where I ended this, and this is where I started this as well. This was on April 15th, about 8 months after I moved out to Seattle. And well, that's it. That's me. And this is me, like, I don't know how many years now? Maybe 2015, so 5 years later. Stuck in the studio where I can't go out and, you know, be myself anymore because of stupid COVID. I just have to get my hair cut and show you all. I'm so ready for this COVID stuff to, like, be done. I'm sure all you are too. Well, anyway, that is my transition timeline. That is who I am. That's who I was. That's where I came from. It's so long video. I didn't think it's gonna be this long, but thank you for being here. So if you are new and you're enjoying all of this, I release videos every single week on Friday, and sometimes they're related to transition stuff, sometimes they're not, sometimes they're all about fun little things that I'm doing. You can see who I am in my video, and if you're liking this, click the subscribe button, click the like button, leave a comment down below the like button, and if you want to see this and read all of these posts more in detail, I will leave a link in the description as well. And thank you all for being here. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, and I will see you next week on Friday. Have a really, really, really great week. Take care.